Okay, at this time, I'm going to call the November 15th Board of Commissioner meeting to order. We will start out with a prayer from Commissioner Sarkella and the pledge by Commissioner Wyatt.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to serve in a free country. We ask you would be with us and help us and guide us in our decision making. And we're certainly grateful for all the things that you give us. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, Leslie, roll call, please.
District 1 Chairman John Block.
Present.
District 2 Commissioner Gary Heberling.
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Bill Sarkella.
Here.
District 4 Commissioner Roger Ballard.
Present.
District 5 Commissioner Joe Wyatt.
Present.
Thank you, Leslie. At this time, we do have some additions to today's agenda. I would like to add a presentation from Carl Ossentowski directly below public comments number 12. And also FA 041-22 below FA 17722, and then also NFA 043-22 underneath FA 041-22. So I'm going to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda today with the additions.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Heberling, support from Commissioner Ballard to adopt the agenda with amendments. Is there any discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to our meeting minutes from November 1st. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You have received your correspondence from Jody yesterday. So at this time, we'll move into commissioner reports and we will start with Commissioner Sarkella.
I was able to attend Fort Sanilac. They had a presentation from Sergeant Moore of the Drug Task Force in regards to their trick or treat discussion. And they are purchasing the Lighthouse Park that was approved at that meeting I was at, the park that the DNR had. So they approved that for $60,500. So that's going to be a great addition for our county. And also received a letter of recommendation from their village president in regards to Carl Ossentowski and the great job he did assisting them with an MSU study that they were working on. Lexington discussed MTERA costs and going up, obviously, cost of fuel, their police chief contract, and then apparently there's some council members looking to be employees, so they're trying to work their way through that as well. And then Sanilac Township is addressing their VRBO ordinance and the water project investment money that they have. Obviously, with CD rates going up, they're looking at establishing some better returns on their assets. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Excellent report. Gary?
Two quick things. Attended 2 township meetings last week, and one is on it. I'll just pass it on so everyone's aware of it. Keep the guy in your prayers. Leo Snuff, the chairman of Bridgehampton Township, had a stroke here a month and a half ago, and he's not really in good shape, and he's missed a few meetings. So keep in your prayers. And then second of all, not a big thing to report, but the township of Moore Township is working on a ordinance for their cemetery and starting up their new website. So both are in the works.
Very good. Thank you, Gary.
A new website or a
A new
website?
Yeah.
Okay, they already got one.
What that?
They already have one?
They started probably, I want to say late this spring, and they're building off it. Basically, they have the same person starting it up as Watertown County.
Thanks.
Very good. I myself was reached out to by a constituent that was having an issue with the cemetery in Forster Township. I was able to speak with the Forster Township supervisor, and I got word today that that issue was resolved. All I have, Roger.
I attended Elmer Township on the 3rd, City of Marlette on the 7th. Tonight I will be attending, Marlette Township and Flint Township. And that's about it.
Good. Thank you, Roger. Joel?
Well, after our last meeting of the 1st, Speaker Township had a meeting, and it was got a little boisterous in terms of, the wind issue. Besides them paying bills and having a discussion regarding, they had the chairman of the planning commission step up and make some comments, and it can be a very contentious issue. So all those townships that haven't yet been approached by wind and solar or any big entities that have a chance to wreak havoc in your community, consider sending out notification to your constituents via postcard or some method. Don't just stick with the legal requirements. It poses nothing but problems further down the road. That's all I got.
Valid point, Commissioner Wyatt.
Pay attention to what's going on in Tuscola County now.
Yeah.
I just heard yesterday, they're starting the same,
Oh.
consumers up there is
Mhm.
starting to disagree with their taxation. And
Well, I think that's the memo you sent out to.
Yeah.
it was on-
The appreciation schedule.
Yeah, it was on the radio yesterday.
That's amazing.
So just to put something on everybody's radar related to some of the comments that Commissioner Wyatt made about the green energy issue. I've read some news articles recently. There were some townships in Michigan that during this election cycle rebuffed wind developments in a big way through referendum elections, and also the replacement of individuals on the boards that were viewed as being pro-wind. And while that made statewide news, the other half of the article was there's already environmental groups pushing the concept in Lansing at the concept of the state taking away the right for local entities to zone those types of projects, which is really against the tradition that we've had in Michigan of local control. It would be kind of a travesty for these local communities to lose that opportunity. So it's something that everybody should be aware of, that it's likely going to become a conversation. And it'd be important to talk to your state representatives to do what you can to keep them from doing that.
Well, that has been an issue that's been in front of the legislature for the last couple of years regarding GRAP, right? From soil removal in townships where they get to decide whether or not that happens or not. And there's a big push on the part of big companies to remove from the townships that local control of how they can, keep their township the way they want it. And they're battling that even currently. Am I right, Carl? Yeah.
Isn't that down by Metamora? They're still.
Kind of dealing with Metamora primarily. That's where it all started, but it affects us in Sanilac County. We've got at the southern end of the county, we've got mid-Michigan, we've got Albrecht, we got a bunch of other ones where these townships have the right to issue permits and have ordinance requirements for them. And at the state level, they want to remove that because it's big money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want you little peon part-time politicians deciding what's best for your community.
The last thing you want is the state of Michigan deciding what your community is going to look like. So everybody should be aware of that issue and do what you can to push back against it. Yes, with that, we will conclude commissioner reports at this time. I'll ask Nathan for his administrator report. Nathan?
Thank you. First thing, wage reclassification requests have been sent in. The evaluations are being looked at and those interviews are going to take place this week. So how they do it is the gentleman reviews the changes within job descriptions or why the requests are being made, and then follows up with the staff and then their supervisors for interviews. And he's going to be doing that this week, and we should get that information from him, I would think, then within 2 weeks, and then we'll kind of bring those before you guys in regards to what his findings were with some of the reclassification requests. We had 16 this year, 12 last year. I would like to explore that whole system of how that works, because that is a costly thing. I mean, there was some talk. He had reached out about a year ago, I believe, in regards to just doing a complete reclassification system. I know the thought of that probably sends chills through a lot of people. When it was first done, it was beneficial for some, didn't work out so well for others. So the thought of that probably is not a great idea, but if we're sending through anywhere from 12 to 16 a year, it's kind of a costly endeavor. I also want to explore how other counties construct, I guess, what leads to a reclassification. We've got some language in there about our reclassifications, but I'm curious how many counties do it. Is there a time frame after you put in for a request where you can't request again within it has to be so many years has to lapse. I think there's a lot of things we could do to maybe make the system a little better. So like to look at that.
Well, Nate, in regards to that, be aware though, that in the past, there was a considerably greater cost because the policies didn't reflect any sense of oversight on the part of the administration, whereby new policies implemented in the last year and a half give the administration greater oversight on that, which directly translates into whether or not we just blindly throw money at this guy to reclassify. So I feel that we've got good policies that could probably be improved into how that's implemented, but it's better for the county and the taxpayers footing the bill the way it's been over the last year and a half than it was in the previous.
Yeah, it is. It's the system as a whole, though. People, I'd like to explore some.
Well, if you're discussing dissatisfaction with the system, I don't know what system you're going to implement that will receive 100% satisfaction by all.
Well, and I guess my thought is if you've had your job reclassified and it's scored out at a certain level and that's where you're at, to push it through year after year after year,
And that's where that policy that has the gatekeeper, as it were, of the administrator, which is you.
Right. Yeah, I think there should be some things. So I'm going to gather some information from other counties and look at that, and I'll bring it for policy.
I would agree, but certainly as you have more experience here, knowing all the various ins and outs, notwithstanding the experience you already had years ago, it'll work out.
Yeah. Okay. Another HR related issue. I talked about doing exit interviews. I was able to conduct first one. I think that'll be a very good system for us to have. I've created a database kind of outlining, I guess, reasons people are leaving. So I think that'll be a good tool for us moving forward as we're able to gather some data to look back, as people always say, is it wages, is it health insurance, is this? Well, it'll be nice to look into. First one I had actually was none of those reasons. So
Great.
So that will be interesting data for us to have.
Well, good job on accomplishing that. It's something that's been discussed for quite some time. Lamenting over the fact that we don't know why that guy left. It would be great to know. Well done.
Thank you. Last thing, negotiations are ongoing with the sheriff's department unions. I think things are going well, and I don't see any reason those won't be settled by the first of the year. So
Very good.
that's all I have.
Any questions for Nathan? Hearing none. Thank you, Nathan. Okay, at this time, we'll do public comments pertaining to today's agenda. Are there any public comments pertaining to the agenda today? Seeing none, we will now have a presentation from Carl Osentoski. Carl, welcome. Good to see you.
Well, thanks. Good to be in here. I've got lots of paper, so. I was chatting with Nathan about doing just a quick update for the Board of Commissioners about what activity we've been undertaking with the EDC. One of the first ones I just want to touch on very briefly is we played a background role in the Lexington Library receiving their $500,000 state grant. One of the issues that we ran into when that program was first unveiled is that the state was looking at only providing grants to qualified census tracts. Interestingly enough, Sanilac County doesn't have one. So what we did was we went to U of M Flint, pulled out low income information and had them plot it on a map so that that could be included as part of the application process. So they looked at densities of people earning less than $30,000. We were talking with the library board about how to document their services to low-income people during the pandemic. So it all worked out. It was an interesting process. We played a tiny role in that. We looked at some of the early grant applications that they were working on, made a couple minor suggestions. It was the library board that did the yeoman's work on that project. But we did play a little role. Kind of what we did with Fort Sanilac. They were looking at the Army Corps of Engineers possibly closing their break wall because of the conditions on the break wall. Army Corps thought it might be unsafe. So what we worked on with the village is to identify what that economic impact would be if they did close that, so people wouldn't be able to get on there. It was in excess of, I think, $300,000 per year that would have a negative impact. I mean, that's a more direct spending. It was a little challenging. We had to find a person at Michigan State University, Jerry Johnson, helped guide us through that process. And once we identified that, we had to get local information about who was using the break wall, how many people would they have. So once we got some of that information in kind of a ballpark figure, we gave that to Michigan State. They ran the numbers and we provided that to the folks over in Port Sanilac. The end goal for that whole effort was to look at where they could identify funding sources. I think they've been talking with Representative McLean about some possible funding through the federal government, working with the Army Corps. So we continue to work on those kinds of projects. We've been participating in the Sanilac County Master Plan update, monthly meetings. In fact, I just got my homework just before this meeting from Lisa. So not only meetings, but homework to do too. It's a great process. I think there'll be lots of good things coming out of that whole process. Housing has been identified as one of the key issues. I know they've been spending some time on that, doing community surveys and community input. We just finished a grant application last Thursday for a regional child care planning grant. What we've been hearing from all of our businesses, regardless of whether they're manufacturing, commercial, healthcare, that trying to identify child care, in particular on second and third shifts, is a huge challenge, and it handicaps them from attracting clients. So the state came out with a grant program. We're, as I said, their initial emphasis was on regions, and our normal economic development region is a 7-county region. It's St. Clair, the Shiawassee County on the I-69 corridor, and then the 3 counties in the Thumb area. We talked to our friends down in Genesee County and decided to split that region up just because we're so different. That's the approach that we used. Was we applied on a 3-county basis. The other unusual thing is that the steering committee on this grant application, or if we're successful in getting the grant, the steering committee for this had to be led by an EDC. It has to have parents of birth through 6-year-olds. Business and industry has to be represented on the committee. We had to have a person from the local government with zoning experience, because they're going to look at how local zoning codes impact provision of daycare or childcare. We were fortunate. We identified all of those folks from 3 counties. We had great assistance from folks in every county. And that grant application was submitted. We'll find out if we're successful, I think the middle part of December. They want to have this up and running January 1st. So we're interested. We applied for about $150,000. That includes stipends for parents and child care providers so that they can attend meetings when we need to. We've made allocations for Zoom meetings so that if they're traveling from Roswell, we save them that trip. We can just zoom in on them. So there's a lot of moving pieces. I felt uncomfortable because we don't deal with childcare. It's not an economic development issue that we typically are involved in at that level. We understand that it's an issue, but it's not something that we feel comfortable heading up the whole grant application process. But we did. We think we did it. We're also working on a regional effort to look at how we attract people to the community, actually the 7-county region again. The state of Michigan had some grants available to EDCs. We applied along with all of those 7 counties. And we're hopeful that we'll hear before the end of the year. And the goal is to retain a consultant that look at and meet with local community leaders, local business leaders, look at what strategies the businesses and communities use to attract employees and then kind of design a system around looking at everything from developing local welcome wagon kind of approaches to reaching out individually to people that might have some kind of connection to Sanilac County. Are there any questions? I could talk. Okay. We've been feeding information to Nathan about various grant programs. The state of Michigan just, well, I shouldn't say just, a couple months ago released a building blight elimination grant. It's available to rural counties. Upwards of approximately $200,000 have been set aside for each rural county. And it's available to demolish blighted buildings, whatever that looks like.
Is that available now?
Technically,
No.
they've awarded their first grants. They've given, applications started the 1st of October, they end of January. So they've given everybody a wide timeframe to.
The only reason I asked, I have one township that's dealing with two very important issues.
And Nathan. And we're providing whatever support the county needs in doing that grant application. We're also doing the one for Huron County as well, $200,000. We've already identified several buildings that need to come down. So it doesn't look like it's a difficult process, but there's a lot of steps to it. Everything from hazardous material assessments before you tear down a building, you want to know if there's asbestos, how much, where is it, so you can kind of control the demolition on that. And fortunately, I chatted with this a little bit just prior to the meeting, is we have a regional brownfield assessment grant that's available to Sanilac County. We're looking for projects in Sanilac County. And if a person, will give you a great example, if we're working with a person up in Huron County that wants to buy an old gas station in a small village, hasn't been a gas station for many years, but it's still a former gas station. So what we're able to do is to go in, do an assessment on that site, provide them with a phase 1 environmental. So it says they didn't cause any contamination that might be left on that site. So their bank can finance the rest of the operation. So it provides that level of comfort for folks. We can use the same grant to do the hazardous materials assessment on any blighted properties. We've started that already on one. So there's some opportunities out there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be just on blighted buildings. It can be on somebody that's buying a commercial property or an industrial property that just needs to have that assurance that it's not contaminated. Or if it is, what is their due care responsibilities?
Carl, I have a question related to that. So for the brownfield sites, would the grant opportunity be provided to government-owned building as well, or is that just privately owned?
For the blight elimination?
No, for the brownfield sites.
Brownfield studies as for everybody. I mean, it could be a local government that's thinking about buying a piece of property for a park. We can go in, as long as there's an end user, we're just not going to go out and do the assessments because there's possibly some contamination. There has to be a development plan. You know, somebody wants to open a restaurant or to build on that piece of property, or a city wants to, we're working with a village now that the property is contaminated. We already know that. So what we're doing is providing them with that baseline, that protection that they didn't cause the contamination, but they have due care responsibilities. What the grant can do is pay for the development of those due care responsibilities. So in this case, they might be putting down some kind of geotechnical fabric that's orange or yellow, so that, and then backfilling it with 6 inches of topsoil.
We've had 2 of these types of projects here in Sanilac County in the last year.
Right.
Were you involved in either of those projects? How come?
We're looking for projects. So if you have them, that's why I'm here. Send them my way.
I've got one that I'll send your way.
Absolutely.
It's just, it's a building that's owned by an entity of government. That's why I was curious whether they qualified.
Nope, if it's gonna change hands and there's a plan for it, whether it's a park or they're gonna sell it to, you know, Carl for a new business. As long as there's an end user identified that there's just not gonna be a vacant piece of property that we tested, that's what we're interested in.
Okay.
Well, Carl, you've given these annually because it's an annual contract that comes up. And what we hear, and what I'm hearing is what you're going to do or what you can do.
Mhm.
Do you have a summarization, say, of the last, I don't know, would 10 years be okay, 5 years of what you've actually accomplished pertaining specifically to Sanilac County, whether they be joint projects or individual projects in Sanilac alone? Something that we can look at and say, hey, for $26,000, this is working out really good.
We can provide that. I don't have it today.
When do you think you could have that?
Give me a week. I'm gonna have it.
Okay, so by the next Board of Commissioners meeting, you'll be able to have that? Okay. Carry on.
Okay.
Thanks.
We continue to map out businesses. We have a database that we've been building over the course of time. One of the things that we did since the contract started is when we first started working with Sanilac County, there was no database of existing businesses. What we've been doing over that course of time is developing that database. We do annual surveys. Are they still in business? And so that we have a constantly updated database, whether they're big employers, local tow truck operators. I just saw a couple of those come through the mail. So it's those kinds of things that we try to do. I think that's it. If somebody's got any questions, I don't want to,
Any questions for Carl?
we'll get that.
Just a comment, Lexington, appreciate your assistance with the DDA expansion that they've been doing down there. I know you've provided, there have been some consulting with that as well, so thank you for that.
Thanks.
Carl, do you have a card with your contact information readily available? I actually had a meeting this morning. We were discussing the topic and I think I have a project for you already.
Good.
Thank you.
Also, I would be remiss. I'm sorry.
I have your number already.
Yes. Way too many people have their number already. I'll leave this with Nathan. Years ago, the county was a recipient of a community development block grant program. That was converted into a revolving loan fund that is available only to Sanilac County businesses. There's approximately $150,000 available to that. And I have kind of the application, not the application, but just kind of the outline of the program. Businesses can get up to $35,000 per job created or retained. They need a business plan. We don't administer that program. The state required that you have to be a certified loan organization. That's being coordinated through Lapeer County EDC. Along with, I think they've got 3 or 4 other small revolving loan funds. So if you know businesses that might be interested that are going to create some jobs, interest rates are variable, payback terms are variable. It's whatever fits best for that particular business. It can come in as gap financing as part of the capital stack for a loan or for a project. So it's an interesting piece of financing available only to folks in Sanilac County. So
Has that been utilized in the last few years?
no, that's why I told Lapeer County that I would mention it again today.
How long has that been available?
Since Kathy Dorman was there.
No, because we did have a couple of businesses in Sanilac that took advantage of similar loans. Thumb Coast Coffee, I think their group.
Yes.
Yeah, and then 3 North Vines.
I think both of those were part of this program.
It was part of that program.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
It sounds similar to what
yes,
that was expressed, yeah.
yeah, I know 3 North was part of it, and now that you say that, some roads
Yep.
as well. So there are out there. It's not the easiest program just because there's a lot of steps and paperwork, but that's what the folks down in Lapeer County can kind of coach them through the process. So And 35,000 is not bad, and there's no minimum, you know, you don't have to create 10 jobs like with some of the other state programs. This is one or two. So.
Very good. Any further questions for Carl? Hearing none.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nathan, so thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll move into interviews for Sand Lake Transportation Board. Is Michael Radford here? Michael, welcome. Podium is yours. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Michael Dwayne Radford, most people call me by my middle name, Dwayne. Gary knows me too. I'm retired, disabled from the construction trade since 2016. I was a small business owner, licensed contractor for 30+ years. I have a CDL Class A with passenger door. I was trained to drive a bus. I have also driven big truck over the road for off and on for 10 years. So I have pretty extensive knowledge of the DOT rules and whatnot of the road. I've never been on a board before. This is my first time, but I did take a class in Robert's Rules of Orders recently for the parliamentary procedure. I hope someday of being on a board or be a chair of a board or co-chair. I'm 59 years old, married, 2 kids, both adults. What else I can tell you at the moment?
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Michael?
Any grandkids?
No. Not yet. None of them are married. Neither one are married.
Are you familiar with the Sand Lake Transportation Corporation, what it is in Sand Lake County?
Yeah, I know it's the bus system that's here in the county. And I know they service all the cities or towns or
Mhm.
whatnot in the county.
Have you ever ridden it?
No, I've applied to drive a bus there.
Mhm.
Oh, probably 12 years or so ago, but I wasn't hired.
Oh, things are much different now. So regardless of what happens here, put in an application.
I plan on. I have to get my medical card back because when I stopped driving over the road, I just didn't keep up on the medical. So I gotta do that. Now that I'm doing better physically with my disability, I'm able to walk without a cane and whatnot, so I should be able to pass the.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions for Michael? Hearing none, we certainly appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have William Walters. William, welcome.
Chairman Watt. You all know me. In fact, I think 3 of you served on my board over the course of years. We're going through a transition period in transportation right now. Due to the pandemic, we aren't having as many CMH and ISD passengers as in the past. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you watch, you'll see some transit vans running around rather than the big buses. We have 13 buses ordered through the state. Possibly by 2024, they might come in. We're negotiating with the state to trade some of those off for transit vans. And we found out that we make a lot of trips with 1, 2, and 3 people. The transit van gets 18 miles a gallon, where the bus gets 7. We have a propane bus. And I just like to continue serving on the board.
Anybody have any questions for William? Seeing none, certainly appreciate you being here today. Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to enter Michael Radford and William Walters into nomination.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Wyatt, support from Commissioner Ballard. And we will use our paper ballots for voting. Thank you, Leslie.
All right, unanimous for William Walters.
Congratulations, William.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it.
Michael, I would certainly encourage you in the future to continue to apply. We always need good people that are willing to be involved. So appreciate you being here today.
And Michael, understand this has nothing to do with what you have to bring to the table. Bill's been a tremendous asset to that board for a while. We just recently had a position available that got filled, so you're a little bit short on that, but keep your eyes and ears peeled. If you plug in with the Human Resources Director here, Jody Morris, those postings come available for a variety of different positions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this time we will move on. There are no chair appointments. There are no general resolutions. So we will move into committee reports. We will start with Commissioner Wyatt.
Oh, let's see. I'm gonna leave it to you. The one committee that we're on is negotiations committee, so.
Funny, because you were the guy that made the last meeting. right?
Oh, Brett, that you were absent. What a dummy.
You made both of us.
You were so impressive at that meeting. That's. We had a negotiations meeting, guys, with 4 different unions. It was a long day. It went well. Some went longer than others. There's active participation on both sides. It's going along smoothly, so that's good. It's only the second meeting. Might have a couple more. I don't see any really bumps in the roads or any real trouble. Since it's negotiations, I won't divulge really what's going on there, but know this, there's active participation on both sides. No fisticuffs, no harsh language. That's all good.
Well, yeah, with the sheriff's unions, they come in with guns on their hips.
Well,
What you gonna do?
They did force us to meet at their area this time, so that was an intimidating move. Well done, well played. No,
I was in on the first round of meetings, and I will say very professional, very respectful group. So very good to work with.
Yeah.
Is it all you had for committee reports, Commissioner Wyatt?
well, we're talking about adversarial, jokes and such like that, but really, we're all here serving the same purpose to bring resources and assets to serve the citizens of Sand Lac. So regardless of what side of the table you're sitting on, we have the constituents' best interest at mind.
Very good. Thank you, Joel. Roger?
I had a community mental health program committee meeting last week. Those folks over there are working hard on utilizing the grant money that they were awarded and doing a fine job as always. They never cease to amaze me. They do a great job. That's all I have.
Very good. Well, I had a health department meeting this morning. As has been the topic for quite a few years has been COVID. They've kind of alluded to today that here it is and we're going to be living with it forever. So get used to it. It seems like they're trying to bring things back to their other services. They're trying to get back to normal, whatever they were providing previously, start bringing those things back. Clearly, the health department has taken quite a leap in the purchase of the Maple Valley property. So they've got some ideas with that. I think the concept that they're moving with is to move slowly and try to find ways to make that property valuable for everybody in the community. And they've got some ideas moving that direction. So
I have a question for you regarding COVID, since you brought it up. Can we
am I going to regret bringing it up?
Well, it would be nice if that entity would consider dialing back the warnings or the Facebook page that gives a weekly COVID update. As you said, as they described, this is like, so I don't think we really need to have that kind of alarmist, updates on a weekly basis or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that what you just brought up actually brings up another good point that came out of today's meeting. So our medical director in the county, Dr. Mark Hammond, gave his medical report today, and even he kind of identified too. He says, I'm sure everybody's been watching the news, and now we've all heard the term tridemic or that they're trying to call between flu, COVID, and RSV. And from his professional opinion, and the guy works in the medical field, he feels that the media is blowing that out of proportion. RSV is a well-known illness that usually affects children by the age of 2. Children were out of school and they were masked for a couple of years. So it stands to reason that we would see a spike in those types of respiratory illnesses now that everybody's back to mingling. He doesn't see any real cause for major alarm there. So it was nice to see some local expertise that actually countered some of the rhetoric that you see flying around. but I will share your comment with them. And which brings me to another point. The health department is currently working on a new website for the health department. One of the topics that I would like to see, that I think, having gone through the pandemic for the last 2.5, 3 years, we've seen this major focus on virus issues. The health department is much more than that. There's environmental is a major topic. And one thing I've requested to be added to that website is I want the health department website to be a resource for county constituents, that if you're looking to buy a house or you're looking to move or you're curious about your water quality, there are maps out there that would show maybe high arsenic levels or other toxic issues that might be within our jurisdiction. That sort of information should be readily available to the public. So I think they are moving in a direction to try to make that more available. So, and I will also share what you brought up. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
Okay, I'll be short with mine. We have a county planning committee meeting this afternoon later, and as Mr. Ostentowski, there you are. Yes, you moved on it. Already alluded to, John and I serve on that planning committee, and it was 10 years or so since we've had a master plan in our county, which is completely outdated, and we needed something new. So John and I, being on that board about a year ago, we decided that we needed to hire someone to lead that. And as I've said a couple times in our meetings here, Lisa Kenny, we have a contract with her, and I was really exuberant about it. And then I said it even to our planning committee, let's get Lisa in here, because we agreed to hire her, and we can get this thing done in a year. Little did I know, it takes more than a year to put together a master plan. There's so many things to consider, but we're so happy we have somebody like Carl on that. We have a number of key people in our county that really he's talking about the steering committee, giving us ideas on what we need to know. And we've had, Lisa's had many community meetings over the past probably month, and they've really kind of highlighted what we need in our community. And I know you touched on it, Carl. So we're moving forward. It's not going to be done in a year. And I didn't realize that, but when it's done, it's going to be a great document for our county, and well thought out and well done.
Very good. Thank you, Gary. Bill?
There's already been a lot of good information that's come from that already. And they've been updating us as we go through it. And there's certainly some things we can share in the community where we live and work. HDC Senior Meal Center in Lexington's up and running. They had 38 people there the other day. So they're going Tuesday through Thursday. So that's been a great thing for them. And then if you recall me referring to the UAI hearing in regards to the circumstances with the contracted employees, non-contracted employees, and so forth. They finally have a hearing date of 1/18/2023. So hopefully by then, maybe there'll be something resolved there. And then the Thumb Area Regional Community Corrections Board that I sit on, they approved their 2023 budget, and now Huron County is coming on board as part of that group as well. So there'll be a little more representation, but we are looking at revamping the membership of that board, because it started out, it was, you needed a sheriff, you needed a prosecutor, and it turned out that there was one from every county. So it was making the board so large and cumbersome, they weren't even able to get a quorum at times because of levels of a commitment for the other parties. So they're downsizing that a little bit to make it easier, but they do want a county commissioner on that board from Sanilac.
So they are downsizing, I've seen.
Yeah, they're downsizing, but there's still going to be some main representation, at least from our end of it as well.
Do they have a time frame on when they're looking to make those changes to that board? Because as we move into our new 7-member board, we're going to be shifting around committee assignments a little bit.
It should be by the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would be safe if we were to appoint a commissioner from our county
Correct.
in January.
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate everyone's committee reports. At this time, there is no unfinished business, so that'll take us into new business. And we will start with FA 171-22 approval of 2022 current claims.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2022 identified in the accounts payable report dated November 8th, 2022 for the general bank account in the amount of $63,821.97.
Or we have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella and support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 172-22 budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments and establishes the following account as listed.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarchello, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 173-22, approval of additional general fund bank account checks charged to October 2022.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of additional general fund bank account checks charged October 2022 as follows. $548,898.14 in ACH payments, $190,733.85 in checks for a total of $739,631.99.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarchello, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 174-22, adoption of soil erosion and sedimentation fee schedule.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the soil erosion and sedimentation fee schedule effective January 1, 2023.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarchello, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion on the topic?
Yes, I think we brought up in the last meeting where Joe and I are part of that personnel committee meeting that brought this to the BOC. The gentleman that's doing this has not had a pay raise in 5 years, something like that. And the pay raise that we gave him was very minimal.
Okay. Any further discussion related to FA 174-22? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 175-22, authorization of yo invoice.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby authorize the additional payment not to exceed $13,500 to Yo for the purpose of additional time spent with funding from the general fund contingency.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarchello. Is there support?
I'll support to move forward with conversation.
We have a support from Commissioner Heberlin. Discussion.
Well, Nate, what are you at? We're gonna have some information, or you were gonna get back to Yo about
Yeah.
reducing that? Do we have anything?
Well, they said they could reduce the, trying to think of the term, what they were willing to reduce was the some of the ancillary costs, but the reduction that we're gonna see is gonna be minimal. As far as the billing amount.
3 years in a row, after they've laid out what they were gonna do, they come back with a pretty hefty, significant bill saying, oh, we've got all this extra stuff that we just went ahead and did, so you owe us for it now.
Yeah,
Who pays contractors like that to do a job?
we extensively discussed this in our last board meeting, and the conclusion that I believe we came to was and Nathan had indicated a path forward moving out of the situation by paying this and dealing with this next year. Or we're a little bit up against the wall, to
Well-
be giving up our auditor.
We're told we're up against the wall, right? In terms of what they're threatening not to move forward with a contract for next year. But one of the things you said is they'll freeze our assets. What does that mean?
That frees our account.
Our account.
They won't begin, and they're supposed to come to do some preliminary stuff on the audit, so they wouldn't begin that process. Unless if that billing gets more than 150 days delinquent. That is out there, so.
Where are we at? How many days?
Days-wise?
Yeah, how many days out are we?
I don't know the exact number of days right now. I just know we're gonna be closing in on that before the end of the year. So,
And have you been able to find, because in the spring, if I recall, we put out an RFP for these services, received 0 bids. Is that correct?
I don't think that's correct. There were some bids. It was put out for bid. There were some bids. We've discussed, I've met with, as I said, our finance director, our treasurer. I think we're all in the same boat of we need to probably move forward with putting it out for bid. The concern is every time you change auditors, there's some, I guess, adaptation that takes place. And with that, it kind of puts a lot of stress, I think, initially on people here to adapt to some of that. And that's what we're seeing.
Well, we've had nothing but 3 years of stress with this company. I
Right.
mean, there's never been a positive experience that departments have expressed saying, man, they made it so easy. That was great. We love this auditor. At least I haven't heard it. I've heard the contrary. complaining about this particular company.
We did communicate after the last meeting. Christy Bender talked to me immediately, sent out an email to some of the other departments expressing that when things are requested this year, we need to really prioritize those. So we get the information to them in a timely fashion. Now I'll be curious if they get the information in a more timely fashion, how different the audit process will be.
Is that laid out in the contract though? Hey, you don't get it on a timely fashion, we're just gonna charge you a fee, a percentage. I mean, if that's not in the contract, then they don't get to say about timely fashion.
We reviewed the contract and there's no language in that contract that requires us to pay the $13,000 bill. The key kicker is if we don't pay it, Yo is not going to perform the audit for us.
Next year's audit, I get that. Now, since we've had that last meeting, I've had other township entities contact us about their experience with Yo, not happy with them, no longer use them. And they said that there are local agencies here in Sanilac County that does municipal auditing that are available if you call them. Have we, in the last 2 weeks, reached out to the various auditing agencies in Sanilac?
No, I haven't made that move because I was, I guess, under the assumption that we would be moving forward with Yo due to where we were at this point in things. Now, I did talk to the road commission as well, who deal with a company, I believe it's called Manor Custodium, and they're very happy with them. I know medical care facility is going to be moving forward with Plant Moran. I'm curious how
They've had Plant Moran for a long time.
they did. They're going to get their own audit this year. They've kind of piggybacked on our audit, and they're going to be moving forward with their own independent audit. And ironically, one of the things that came up, I guess, in their meeting was, would there be overages for telephone contacts? And they said they would prefer contact throughout it because it has the potential to make things run smoother in the end. So I think there's some, like I said, I'm just curious how things will go with some different oversight this time. But I think regardless, we are all on board with the idea of putting it out for an RFP.
Well, we have time before this due payment comes due, right? It would be nice to know the exact date. You said before the end of the year. So we've got at least a month, if not more. So before our next meeting, you have time to reach out to those auditing firms that may or may not be in Sanilac County, the firm that the road commission uses, and see what you can work out. And I'd say we delay this payment until the last day. I'm not interested in paying them a dime more. Every time we put a penny in their pocket, it's a penny that we're losing. So let's wait until the last minute. And during that time, let our administrator do some work and find out who's an auditing firm that's available for next year. And have a conversation with Yo. You know, what exactly is it? Because like Chairman Block said, that ain't in the contract.
Yeah, I numerous conversations, and like I said, the last one, I had brought the finance director in. They just didn't feel that things were to them in a timely fashion, that they could move forward in a timely fashion, and that delayed. They said, once you get backed up and there's so much contact and gathering the information, it creates so much more time involved in the audit.
Has Christie been involved with them? Christie, are you out there? Can you come into the board chambers? Has this been an issue for the last 3 years that they've had? Because by golly, if this was the issue the first year and they addressed it in the contract and it wasn't resolved, then it would be our fault and we should be on it. If by the second year it's still an issue and it wasn't addressed in this current contract, why isn't it? I mean, if this is a problem that they've been having repeatedly and we're just not fulfilling our verbal end of the bargain, why the heck wouldn't they have that in a written contract?
I understand your point,
Yeah,
Commissioner Wyatt, but I was under the impression that we had a course of action agreed upon at the last board meeting, and I don't want to throw our administrator for a loop here by changing course. So
Is that something you can handle?
I think the process would be to put it up for RFP rather than just independently reaching out to companies. I think if we wanted to get numbers, we'd have to follow the process.
You've had an RFP out in the spring. Did you shut that down and close it out?
That was prior to me getting here.
Well, I mean, we did engage in that this year.
Commissioner Wyatt, if I could just say this, and I think I speak for Commissioner sitting here today, if I'm wrong, correct me. But Bill and I have been on here for some time, John, and yes, we did know back the first year we had the O&L, our county treasurer and our finance director both expressed difficulties with that. And we went back, as far as I know, because our former county administrator isn't here, but Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. We've had those discussions, and I think from our past 3 years, there has been issues like this right along. And in our last meeting, as Commissioner Block has said, I thought we had a path laid out here that we still have concerns. We don't like the $13,500 bill. I think we're all collectively kind of held hostage here legally or not legally. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, I think that's what we agreed upon. We would go with the new RFP, get someone in here new. I still am all for that, and I think we're all for that. But I want to be careful as we move forward that we don't just jump in and say, let's get a bunch of RFPs in here and let's get somebody. I think we have to take time, lay it out. I'm not sure what committee is going to look at them RFPs, but again, you're absolutely right in your assumptions that they have caused us a lot of problems and caused our people that work here a lot of problems, you know. Let me just finish up. So I don't want to throw the blame on Nathan and our county administrator. I think we moved forward with the plan we put in place last month, but I agree with your assumption.
I was vocal last month when we just.
I know you were.
Finances. I am now.
Hard to believe that.
I'm certainly not any happier about it now. Can I speak?
I get it.
I think I asked last meeting about this, whether or not they've submitted an invoice that specifies in hours, that shows what it is, because right now it's, hey, here's this big bill that you owe us. And mind you, this is the second part to the bill. Wasn't it $25,000 originally? And we've already paid a bit.
Their original request was, don't quote me, but I want to say it was like 43 or 44,000 total, the audit. That's what they're.
Yeah.
And we've incurred overages, and
aren't those itemized?
I asked them if they could itemize it, and they could not, but they provided a list, which I have in my office, as to reasons why. And like I said, Christy and I heard them from them before as to the reasons why. The only thing I can say is it's very difficult for me to assess because I came in on the back end of this. And I would hate to write something off before I have an opportunity to kind of be in my communication with them. Well, we're dealing with kind of a negative issue, hasn't been all negative. So what I'm hoping is that we can flush this stuff out. Like I said, Christy's taken some steps to talk to some of the other departments. We're going to stay on top of things. I'm just curious if we can kind of if we move forward with a little different approach, whether things will get cleaned up a little bit, because it's interesting that you say you've talked to some who have had, I guess, unpleasant experience with Yo-Yo, because I talked to another local city who deals with them and said, yeah, we had to clean some things up, and we did it, and we're on track now, and our audits.
I appreciate you saying that. And in reference to my earlier statement, while it's true, I won't divulge the fact that it could be that particular entity is known for what would be the word, being not disgruntled, but being difficult to manage. So it could be that had they stayed with them, maybe this is a strict, auditing firm and they set you on the straight path. But if that's the case, why the heck? I mean, is it unreasonable to ask for an invoice statement that identifies what the charges are specifically? Because it's saying basically we're not doing what they thought we understood we should be doing. How can we go back and correct this for the next year if we don't have an itemized list of things that specifically we need to do? So you can go to that department and say, you cost us $7,000 last year by not being on time with things. Your department cost $9,000. Where's that going to come out of? If you remember, I said, if we identify it's our departments that are failing in some way with a clear-cut understanding on the front end what they should have done, well, then their budgets need to be reduced to cover that.
I understand your point, Commissioner Wyatt, but we have an administrator that's identified a path forward through this, and I have faith in his ability to do such.
Well, I feel, gentlemen, that we still have time, that we can create an RFP. You've already got one blueprinted out from the previous spring. Make some phone calls, dedicate a couple days, set someone on that task. See if we can line up someone maybe locally or that other agencies use for next year. And delay the payment to this agency until the last minute, unless, Christie, they're holding us accountable to a higher standard than we're used to, and we just haven't got there yet. If that's the case, then maybe this should be a painful reminder that we need to up our game last year. And if that's the case, it needs to be said. Because if that is the case, maybe we should stay with it. What do you say, Christie? You've been with them for 3 years. Are they a competent auditing firm that's holding us to greater accountability and that's a benefit in the end?
Yes, but they're very difficult to deal with.
Okay,
I think they're a great firm.
yeah,
And I don't want to credit them at all.
okay.
But it's their way or no way. They're difficult to please.
Are we reasonable in asking for some kind of
We did ask for.
itemized, I mean, why can't, and having that in the contract, oh, you're gonna charge us extra for this, this, and this?
We did ask them.
Are they refusing to do that going forward?
I've got a list. I just don't have the hours into those. So they gave me some bullet points as to. There was delays with this, there was delays with this, this led to issues. Now, did they attach hours to it? They did not. But we do, and we discussed that, and that's why, like I said, we're trying to flush some things out, I guess, before we get into the same situation.
So did it offer a clear definition of what the problems were? I mean,
They gave us
was it
some-
overall
They
every
gave us some
department?
specific ideas. Now, they didn't identify departments, but they talked about the number of communications that our county needs. They felt was a little excessive compared to what they typically deal with. They said they're supposed to be high level audit. They're not supposed to be contacted for what they consider like typical budgetary issues.
So we have an issue with point of contact on the county's part. Everyone's got an open line to them and they bill like a lawyer.
Well, and we've identified that issue and now everything's gonna be going through the finance department. They talked about delays. Like I said, Christie immediately sent out a letter to those entities kind of expressing. And when we talk about the budget, it's not, every department isn't necessarily involved. So to get into like, departmental budgets, it's really not a situation where every department's involved, but which makes it easier for us because we just have to communicate with a few departments, hopefully to get our performance to where it should be. We have made improvements, and I don't want it to seem as though we've made some improvements in some areas. Another thing they expressed was how we track our capital assets, our fixed assets, our capital assets, if you will. We do it on an Excel web page manually with a person. They said that creates a lot of time for them because then with that being done that way, there's the potential for more human error than if it's done through a program. They said most counties our size would be utilizing a program. There's one right through the software system we use here, BSNA. I looked at it. It's probably about it's somewhere $15,000 to $17,000 product, but it's something that I think we need to look at closely because if we're paying overages, 12, 13,000, what could that save us long term?
That BSNA add-on, is that an annual cost or is that a one-time purchase?
That would be a one-time purchase. I don't know if there's annual costs associated with BSNA in general, Christie. But we have that whole program that would fit that software.
But what I'm hearing you say is you've identified the reasons why there have been overages and we're going to do what we can to prevent overages in the future. And we're in a situation where either you pay the bill and step up and do what Yo wants, or we jump ship and we put our department through the task of trying to find out how a new auditor wants to deal with the issue. So I think it's a little premature to do that. Any further discussion related to FA 175-22?
No, I think, yes, one more thing. I understand clearly what you're saying. $13,500 sticks out there like a sore thumb. But I think we have to go back to lessons learned. Obviously, we've heard this for 3 years from our employees here at the courthouse. And I don't think we've avoided it, but I can't believe that you'll come in and tell us that we've been doing all these things wrong. And we've been functioning like a county government for 100 years. And I know there's always improvements we can make. But if the personalities don't mesh, it's never going to work. So I don't think we got to get an RFP out tomorrow. But I think, as we said last month, we move forward with lessons learned and look at another company. I get it, Joel. 13,000 is a lot of money. And
Well,
I
it's just the idea.
don't think we can get
They
around.
provide a service and then they go, oh yeah, you gotta pay us this. If you don't, we're gonna jam you.
Totally understand. It's the ramifications of not.
That would be the last time I take something to you to get fixed,
I know.
no matter how good you are, right? It blows my mind. And we've done that 3 times. And we're not asking for much help. All I'm asking for is a manner in which it's, identifies, itemized, where we're screwing up so we can fix if there's a problem on our end.
It appears as though maybe not down to the dollar, but they have the list of items that need improvement.
It's a list you can work with that we can make function.
And just so you know, the bill is dated June 30th. So
Okay.
we've been working on it since then.
All right. Hearing no more further discussion related to FA 175-22, all those in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to FA 176-22, authorization to utilize ARPA funds.
Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the transfer of ARPA funds to cover the sheriff's office wages between April 16th, 2021 to March 31st, 2022 at an amount of $1,222,708.07.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Huberling. Everybody remember, this is simply not directly using ARPA to pay off the bond payment. We're using general fund dollars and then using ARPA to pay what we would have paid the general fund. So.
And it's been vetted as being
Correct. And it's the iParametrics, the consulting
That's
firm
it.
we initially reached out to and been working with, their recommendations. So simple
To
accounting.
reiterate, the savings was, Gary, like 400 and some odd thousand. You mentioned it.
Just shy of 400,000 in interest saved to the taxpayer, right? And 18 years of payments. And I think the number again was around 90,000 back in county coffers on an annual basis. So
90,000 a year.
very good.
Sorry for the phone call the other day, Jim.
Oh, that's
We talked about this the last meeting, how we're gonna correlate this and make it work, and I opened up our agenda last week when Jody sent it out. Whoa, what is this? They had to remind me. What we.
you got me excited during lunchtime on Sunday. All right, nothing further with FA 176. I'll entertain, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 177-22, adoption of 2023 proposed budget resolution, adoption of 2023 proposed county budget, the General Appropriation Act. This is a resolution that is beyond extensively long. Bill, if you're up for it, you could read the whole thing, or I think we could just pass the resolution.
Well, I support. Can we discuss, Chairman?
I'll let Bill at least make the motion first.
The Santa Clara County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the 2023 proposed resolution, the General Appropriations Act and 2023 general and non-general fund budget, see attached.
We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella. We have support from Commissioner Wyatt. Discussion?
Christie, we took the line item out, right? At the
Right.
recommendation of Yo-Yo, and at your great satisfaction, I imagine, right? So we're good as far as that goes. Okay. That's all I really wanted to know.
Okay, is there any further discussion related to
I
the
didn't see it in
resolution?
there.
Hearing none, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes, my bad. Leslie, roll call vote, please.
A resolution.
Commissioner Sarkella,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberlein,
Yeah.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Chairman Black.
Yes. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, that will take us into our salmon colored sheet, and we will go to FA 041-22 authorization to dispose of vehicles motor pool.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes retaining the 2015 Chevy Equinox for motor pool utilization by reimbursing the tax foreclosure fund in an amount not to exceed $20,250 with funding for motor pool, and to further recommend authorizing the elimination of 2 additional motor pool vehicles through Albright Auction Service. 2005 Chevy Cobalt, VIN number ending in 08365, and 2006 Chevy Uplander, VIN number ending in 47111, which will offset the cost of a new vehicle for the motor pool fleet.
We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarcella. Is there support? Support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion?
I don't remember, what's the retaining the 2015 Equinox? Where's that one coming from?
So that, Commissioner White, that was,
Is
from
that Trudy's?
Trudy's, yeah,
Okay.
that was from the treasurer's
Yeah, okay.
office, and then originally they were gonna look at trading these vehicles in. As she was looking to get a new vehicle, through discussions with her, she didn't feel that need to get a new vehicle for her department. So, and as we're looking at the age of those vehicles and that they're just kind of sitting out there, we want to move those forward.
And the county treasurer is still gonna utilize a vehicle from the motor pool, right?
They could utilize a vehicle from the motor pool, yeah.
I think that was the agreement back May, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to as well. Very good. Any further discussion related to FA 041-22? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 043-22, approval of Economic Development Corporation Agreement.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following agreement between Huron County Economic Development and the County of Sanilac.
We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarcella. Is there support? Support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there discussion?
Yep, I move, Gary, or, I'm sorry, Bill, would you mind postponing this until our next meeting when Carl can present the information requested, so we have a good snapshot of what's been provided over the last, I don't know, however deep you can go back.
I don't have a problem with that.
It's your motion.
Okay,
Okay, so friendly amendment to refer this motion to the first. I'm gonna pull the date out of my head. If I'm right, Nathan, December 6th, Board of Commissioners.
December 6th. yeah.
nice.
You accept that friendly amendment, Commissioner Sarcella?
Yes.
Do you accept that friendly amendment, Commissioner Wyatt?
Mhm.
Okay, we have a motion to refer NFA 043-22 to December 6th. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. That concludes new business. That will take us into general public comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to speak to the board about today? Seeing none, we will move on. There is no need for closed session or closed session minutes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
So, we need to set the budget for public hearing.
Date.
Okay, that was not in the resolution.
Big resolution.
Okay, well,
I know Bill didn't say it.
that's fine. I will entertain a motion to set the public hearing for the budget to December 6th of 2022. So moved. We have a motion from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there support? We have support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion?
Yes, I will not be here for that meeting.
Okay.
Is there a possibility of returning that to our December 16th? Is that too late?
I understand that. My concern is if we run into some kind of a hiccup or some kind of catastrophe, we're not going to have the budget set before the end of the year. So I'd like the cushion of one extra meeting. So,
That's fine.
okay, thank you. Any further discussion relating to the motion to set the public hearing for December 6th? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. If there is no further business to come before the Board of Commissioners, I will entertain a motion.
Public comment? Yeah, I don't have any, but you.
I already did that
You
once,
mentioned
but public
Sorry.
comment again,
You
anybody?
slipped that one by me.
Any takers? No? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wyatt, support from Commissioner Ballard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 2:14.